Glenn.
Peter.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning. Beautiful late summer, early fall day even. Wednesday, August 27th, 2025.
First day of school for those with kids of school age, which I know you are a member.
Yeah, I'm very proud and excited of watching my kids go off to 7th grade and 10th grade today. So, yeah, it's a great day. Great day for us here. How are things going with you, Pete?
Things are going okay. I thought maybe we'd have a little ALS Ted Talk today.
Let's
little public service announcement. What about the disease and what it does and its prevalence, and maybe an opportunity to educate anyone who might be listening to this who's less familiar.
I think that's a great idea.
So maybe just a little ALS. The letters stand for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. I think if you asked me to define any one of those three words, I wouldn't be able to, but it's helpfully shortened to ALS. People with ALS are referred to as PALS. You put a P in front of the ALS, pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
And also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, a great baseball player who came down with ALS at a fairly young age and was, maybe one of the most famous people ever to have the disease that at least brought some awareness to it. The disease was discovered in around 1870. So you can do the math for how long this disease has been killing people.
Yeah.
And although there's been billions of dollars invested in research and how the disease works, what might cause it, more importantly, how to treat it, how to stop it, how to cure it. And, from a patient's perspective, it feels like we're in maybe the second inning of a game that's going to go extra innings, like not a lot of progress. And there are a few subcategories of the disease, but essentially what the disease does is renders people's voluntary muscle movement. It doesn't work anymore. You lose control of your voluntary muscles. Typically, it starts in a limb, hand, or a foot. In my case, it started in my left hand, and it is heterogeneous in nature, meaning it presents itself differently for different people. Some people, it starts in their head. That's called bulbar onset. It can affect their breathing or their speech, their ability to swallow food, ability to keep saliva in their mouth. Probably the majority of people, it is what's called limb onset, so in a hand or a foot. Starts in an extremity and works its way inward. The other heterogeneous aspect of the disease is that it progresses in a highly variable fashion, meaning the rate at which people's disease gets worse can vary significantly. Statistically speaking, as I understand it, roughly half the people who are diagnosed have a life expectancy of 3 years. In other words, half the population of people diagnosed with ALS pass away within 3 years, and then the other half live longer. People may be familiar with Stephen Hawking, the famous physicist and scientist. Yeah. He had a very rare version of ALS, but it was ALS, and he lived, 60 years or something. Wow. Many standard deviations from the mean.
Right.
And so it is early. I'm a year and a half into my diagnosis. My left hand really doesn't function at all. My right hand is very, very weak. I have no pinch strength. I have no dexterity, so I can't tie shoes, button buttons, zip a zipper. If you ask me to try to pick up some M&Ms that were on a table, that's not going to happen. I wear AFOs on my legs, which are ankle-foot orthoses. They're basically leg braces that make it help me keep my balance and help make it easier for me to walk. There's less exertion. I have recently needed to have a home health aide come 4 hours a day to help me shower and get dressed. She makes me breakfast and lunch, so Lynn can go to work, and we can give Lynn a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
I have a motorized wheelchair to enable me to walk my dog, because I can't walk very far. So your muscles weaken until they don't work anymore, and as they weaken but still work, they get fatigued very, very easily, and so I spend a fair amount of my day. It revolves around me thinking about what I want to do and where I would like to exert energy, because I only have so much.
Yeah, you got to pick your battles.
So I got to pick what do I want to do, and where can I get help with activities that are would cost me, like bathing and dressing. If I do that on my own, I'm still capable of doing it on my own, but I mean, I'm huffing and puffing like I just ran a 10K. Like it's exhausting. So energy conservation is a big deal. When you have this disease, and then I'll stop talking for a second. Basically, you're in a cadence of every 3 months. We're certainly very fortunate to live in Boston. Mass General has one of the leading multidisciplinary ALS clinics on the planet that has access to the best people in the world, and is also a center of research activity for clinical trials. So I've also am participating in a promising clinical trial, and that is I'm grateful for, just geographically speaking, to have that have that in our backyard. But the cadence is every 3 months you go to the doctor for a clinic day. And the first couple of times I went to clinic days, you sort of feel like you're making progress. Like, hey, I'm going to the doctor. I'm going to, this is going to help me get better.
Yeah.
And as you become a little more of a grizzled veteran with the disease, you realize that clinic day is just a way to say, okay, how much worse has it gotten in the meantime, and what interventions should we be thinking about? So as an example, at my last clinic day, my next one is in a few weeks, my breathing had become compromised. And I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. It's gotten thinner. It's just not quite, I don't quite have the same, I had a little more of a boomy voice and projected a little harder. But just in the last 3 weeks, I've been prescribed non-invasive ventilation. So it's essentially a mask that goes on your face, and it forces air in, and then makes sure that you get rid of the carbon dioxide. You don't retain carbon dioxide, because you breathe oxygen in and you breathe out carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
And if retaining carbon dioxide is not good.
Right.
And
so the mask is
also,
like mechanical, like providing a vacuum and things like that to help.
Yeah,
you breathe?
right. It's sort of sealed in your mouth, and it's a little like a CPAP machine for people with sleep apnea. But it's called a BiPAP machine because it goes in both directions. The CPAP is just designed to keep your airway open. This machine also makes sure that you get rid of the carbon dioxide. People with sleep apnea their airway gets clogged, and so they need the airway open. My airway is fine. It's that my diaphragm is weakening, and I need something to help me fill my lungs up and then drain them.
Right. Right.
And so that's something I use, maybe collectively 2 or 3 hours a day, but not, I may put it on for 20 minutes. Like after this discussion, I'm going to be a little fatigued. I'm probably going to just go put the mask on.
Sure.
And leave it on for 20 minutes and just help me kind of, I don't feel any different when I'm done, but my breathing sort of relaxes a little. So that's kind of how the disease works, and I'm grateful that I have a slower progression than most. Right. But that's nice.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for those that have a faster progression.
Yeah.
But what I'd really like to see is, I'd like to see this disease get figured out. We need to pump. We need more. it's 35,000 people or so with ALS in the country. I don't know. It's a little unclear what how many get diagnosed every year. It wouldn't surprise me if it's a little more than that.
Right.
Because obviously, people die pretty quickly.
Yeah. I was a little bit surprised when you were first sharing your diagnosis. There's not like a positive diagnosis of ALS. They need to eliminate every other thing it can be, and then they are left with the conclusion that it must be ALS. That's fascinating to me. Like, what a difficult problem in medicine.
Yeah. So it's a diagnosis primarily of exclusion. Obviously, somebody presents with a problem.
Yeah.
Right. In my case, it was my left hand was weakening. You might remember us. We were playing gigs, and I don't know, in maybe September of 2023, we were playing gigs, and you'd see me shaking my hand out all the time, and I was getting these cramps in my forearm, and I'm like, what is going on here? This just is weird. I've never had this before. I sort of assumed it was an overuse injury or something. Yeah. And then it got a little worse, and I noticed some hand weakening, and that's when I went to the doctor, and they, like the logic is, what could be causing hand weakness in this person? Well, it's the nerves that control your hand are from your cervical spine, so let's check out a cervical spine, and that's no good. They do a what's called an EMG exam, where they stick needles basically into your muscles and then have you flex the muscle, and the contraption is connected to this thing that sounds like a Geiger counter, and that's how they figure out to what degree your nerves are functioning or not functioning. And there was clear denervation in my left arm, and then the question is, what's the cause of that denervation? And so it wasn't my cervical spine, it wasn't Lyme disease, it wasn't lead poisoning, it wasn't an autoimmune disorder, it wasn't brain cancer, it wasn't spinal cancer. So MRIs and all these tests that go on. And then at the end, there were two signs that were, sort of sealed the deal, so to speak. One is I had what are called fasciculations, which are really just little muscle twitches all over my body, like my legs. You'd see these; they'd just be firing off like Christmas tree lights, on off. Very common thing in ALS patients. And then they did an EMG of my entire body, so sticking these needles in my butt, in my legs, in my back, in my arms, all over the place. Not a particularly pleasant experience. And they need to see signs of denervation in 3 distinct areas of the body. So you eliminate all these things. Fasciculations are a pretty clear sign, but not definitive. EMG exam that shows denervation in 3 areas, also not definitive, but it's like, look, there is no other explanation, so this is what it is, and that's how they diagnose us. And then, of course, 6 months go by and nothing has changed, they may reevaluate, but so and when I was diagnosed at MGH, he's like, look, there's no, am I 100% certain that this is what you have? No. Am I virtually certain that this is what you have? Yes, I've seen this a lot, and we should move forward as if this is what you have, and that's how the diagnosis works. But a lot of people kind of blow off the symptoms, or ignore them for a long time is one problem, because earlier intervention is better in terms of slowing disease progression. And the other thing that is difficult is, like, I was very fortunate to have multiple MRIs and blood tests, and I saw a neurosurgeon and a neurologist, and I saw many subspecialists in, like 6 weeks. And a lot of people don't necessarily have, either the healthcare network, or they live in a part of the country where it's hard to find these specialists, and they're very booked, and it takes, the doctor could see you in 5 months kind of thing. Right. And time is not your friend. Yeah. And so that's the other other aspect of the disease that's
It's almost like an invisible disease where you can't actually find it. You can only find kind of like the damage it's left behind, or like what Yeah.
And it's gradual.
Yeah.
And I say this to people: if we were sitting here having a conversation, and you didn't know that I was sick, you might see my leg braces. But if I had pants on and I wasn't wearing the leg braces, and I didn't have to do anything with my hands, you wouldn't even know.
Right.
And so it's invisible in that way also.
Sure. Yeah.
And then so early on, up until recently, it was mostly for me a mental battle of, hey, really bad stuff is going to happen to your body at some point in the undetermined future, but not measured in years, most likely. And that is just that is a very difficult thing to deal with emotionally. Just knowing something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. Having certainty about it, and some aspects of certainty, just no clarity as to when, just the certain inevitability.
The inevitability of it. I mean, there's ALS has got it's batting 1,000 in terms of killing people.
Yeah.
There's nobody survives from ALS. Up until now.
Right.
And so the certainty of what will happen, and then the uncertainty of how quickly it will happen and in what order it will happen. So, like imagine having to think about this when they recommended voice banking. Hey, Pete, a lot of people lose their ability to speak. In fact, most people lose their ability to speak. And technology exists today that if you go through this process of banking your voice, there is AI technology that will enable you to communicate by, typing with your eyeballs onto a screen, and then the computer will speak what you typed, and it will sound like you.
Right.
Like that's awesome.
That's incredible.
But imagine having like I've had to plan for that. I guess it makes your head explode. It's not even comprehensible.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of terrible things. So I sort of say all this to just as a public service announcement to educate people about the nefariousness of the disease, and then maybe secondarily take an opportunity to, smile. You see somebody in a wheelchair or somebody struggling who's got a disability, smile, wave to them, say hello, treat them normally.
Yeah.
It's funny, as I ride around town in my wheelchair, there's sort of three types of people. There's people who sort of go out of their way to be like, hey, how you doing? And be nice. There's people who kind of never look up in the first place, so that they don't know. And then there's people that, at least this is my perception, like they don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Like they'll look directly at me, and then look away.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It's not like it hurts my feelings, but I have become much more aware of not others' reaction to me, but my I'm just much more aware of people that may be struggling physically or whatever, and try to have a level of empathy. It doesn't take much to smile and wave and say hello, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. What brings you joy these days? I mean, you've got so much kind of heavy stuff floating over your head. What is there respite? Are there things that can still, bring you joy?
Yeah, for sure. We haven't spoken about the band yet, but that'll be in a future episode. It brings me great joy to still have this band going. My ability to participate, as you well know, has declined precipitously. I mean, obviously I can't play guitar anymore, but so I reinvented myself a little bit as a front man, and that went pretty well for a while.
Yeah.
And now, I just don't have the stamina. So now I show up for a gig, and I open the gig up for 3 or 4 songs and play some harmonica and sing, and then I'll sit down and listen to the first set, and then I'm out.
Yeah.
That brings me joy.
Yeah.
I have a great group of friends, but I have a great group of close friends, and you're one of them. Like people that have gone out of their way to, this project exists because you came to me and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think?
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't be doing this otherwise, brings me joy, not just the relationship, like to know, like, wow, this guy is doing this for me. That's incredible. But doing this is fun.
Yeah.
I was in kind of a dark place last Monday and Tuesday, and my good friend Adam Rohde from Greenwich, Connecticut, and my good friend Mike Bunis, who lives in Boston, said, we're coming over for lunch. And it ended up being, they were from lunch until 6 p.m. and we were yucking it up the whole day. And like
That's
distractions, I don't even think about my situation when I'm distracted. When I'm engaged in something, you just don't think about it. I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks, listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
I go out for a walk in my wheelchair, every day, if not a few times a day, and get outside. As you've met my dog Moose, my service dog, who we've spent hundreds of hours, training to be a service dog with a trainer, and he's by my side. I think he barked earlier in this episode. He's by my side full time. Yeah. Like it's nice to have. It's nice to have a dog by your side who just, if I lie down on the floor or something, he walks over and puts his chin on my shoulder or whatever. Like he's my guy.
Love Moose.
Yeah. So family, friends.
Yeah.
I'm still working, albeit at a reduced clip, but as we talked in the last episode about what I do for a living, I get to engage my brain.
Yeah.
And this is a disease that robs your body of its functionality, but it doesn't affect your brain.
Right.
So there's that.
Yeah, and so still being able to use it and solve problems and feel a sense of accomplishment and productivity, I'd imagine that's really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was, like losing my ability, my big passion in life, as you know. I played guitar every day for, 20 years.
Yeah.
An hour a day or more. That's what I did. And when I lost that ability, that took me 6 months to get over that hump, to just sort of now I'm sad about it, but I don't spend any time, fixating on it. It is what it is. Right. I'm in an it is what it is mode now, as opposed to the fear of the bad things that can happen, although things are going to get significantly worse. They're bad enough now that I'm like, okay, I don't need to fear the future because the future is today. Yeah. And just deal with it.
Yeah.
So I'm just dealing with it.
Takes a lot of strength, my man.
Well, yeah, I'd say to people, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
But I've gotten to a point where I can be sort of matter of fact. I will admit that I've cried more in the last 6 months than in the last 25 years cumulatively. It's there is some emotion involved, but
yeah. You got to fight. Right, that's when that's all that's left, then that's what you do.
Yeah, so this is a kind of a dark topic of discussion. We've had a little more fun in prior episodes, but I think it's appropriate and helpful for people to be aware of the disease, and not about me, but about the disease. And there are people. I follow a bunch of people on Instagram. A woman who's 23 years old. I asked my care team, "What's the youngest ALS patient they'd ever seen?" And I was shocked. An 11-year-old.
Yeah.
So this isn't just old people. The Ice Bucket Challenge, Peter Frates, the Boston College baseball player who he popularized the Ice Bucket Challenge to raise awareness for ALS. He was in his 30s.
Yeah.
They don't know the cause, and there's not a lot of there's a lot of intervention to try to help people live more easily, but not to make it stop or get better. Basically a lot of the research now is around slowing it down.
Yeah. Must be one of the great medical mysteries of our time, and hopefully all this awareness will inspire people who are starting careers in science and bio and medicine to be fascinated and challenged by solving this.
Well, it's there are plenty of bad diseases out there, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all sorts of cancers, and it's not the only one, but this is a very complex disease, and kind of would be a holy grail type of thing to discover an effective treatment. And it's a relatively small patient population, so one of the challenges of our system in society is that there's not necessarily a huge profit motive because there's not that many people to treat.
Right. Right.
So if you're trying to invest money to generate a return, you'd like to find as big a market as you can. And that's, obviously government gets involved, although that's a whole separate conversation in today's political environment. But the one thing I do say is there's never been a better time than today to have ALS, which isn't to say that it's good to have it, obviously. But in terms of
it would have been worse
technology,
10 years ago, for sure.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, all of the various interventions that are available and technology to improve people's quality of life is amazing, truly amazing.
Yeah.
So on that happy note, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? So that's enough on this particular topic, but I thought we'd have a little break in the action from episodes 1 and 2 to just have a real conversation about a shitty situation.
Yeah, and it's a dynamic situation, so it's certainly one that we'll revisit, but we're going to intermingle all kinds of different topics. And I'm sure this is one we'll come back to as well.
Well, and look, the other reality is that as we continue these conversations, pretty likely that listeners will hear the degradation, in my voice and get updates on how things are progressing, and you might as well have a heads up that, that may happen, and we're just gonna, take everybody through it.
Yeah, we're gonna roll with the punches and share and be transparent and help some people out, lift some people up. That's what we're gonna do. If you have comments or questions for Pete and me, you can email us at 2224peter@gmail.com. If you'd like to get involved with or donate to ALS causes, check out ALS One at alsone.org. Thank you for listening.